Hello darling, let's take 10 minutes today to discuss Taylor Swift opening up about her eating disorder. I'm also going to cover what could have caused her eating disorder and why I don't actually think she should have edited her anti-hero video. But first, let's recap on what you may already know about Miss Taylor's struggles with food. In 2020, she first discussed her eating disorder in her Netflix documentary Miss Americana, and she stated that I tend to get triggered by something, whether it's a picture of me where I feel like my tummy looked too big, or someone said I looked pregnant or something, and that will trigger me to just starve a little bit, just stop eating. She expressed very clearly that the media that now surrounds her celebrity life had become a big trigger to restrict her food intake to help her cope with much deeper traumas. Because if you haven't heard me discuss this before, eating disorders are simply a way for us to cope with unprocessed trauma. The restrictive eating disorders in particular I work with manifest in 3 different ways, and Taylor might be resonating with any of these 3. Number 1, attempting to reach an image of perfection to keep ourselves emotionally safe. Number 2, punishing ourselves because we feel like we're a failure, because others have overtly or covertly told us that we are in some way defective. Or number 3, we're trying to show others how much we've been hurt by our traumas through starving our bodies, almost a physical metaphor for our emotional pain. Maybe you resonate with any of these 3 yourself. In fact, did you know that traumas that live in the emotional abuse spectrum are actually the most common reason for the development of eating disorders? With bulimia nervosa, we most prominently see bullying as the cause, and with anorexia nervosa, we see emotional abuse and neglect. Taylor also perfectly described the battle many of us have felt with restrictive or purge-based eating disorders, discussing in Variety magazine, I thought that I was supposed to feel like I was going to pass out at the end of a show, or in the middle of it. Of course I eat, I exercise a lot, I told people, but I wasn't eating. It is completely normal when struggling with trauma to attempt to hide the only thing that's helping you cope and get through the days, even if it's something we know is hurting us, because it can often feel like we don't have another option to survive. So we're seeing a very traditional pattern of eating disorder development here for gorgeous Taylor. The pressure to be perfect put on her by the media and society, very likely building on the unprocessed traumas throughout her life, which at the very least could include bullying from society and the media, as well as her mum's battle with cancer, her parents' divorce, and I'm sure a multitude of other things that we are not aware of. She also discussed the pressure to be perfect in her celebrity world, how she never felt like she met any of the body standards thrown at her, but yet was praised for being thin, pretty and pleasing in her professional life. Often when we lack true affirmation based on love and growth mindset from our primary caregivers as a child or teenager, we struggle to build resilience and the ability to self-affirm. This can ultimately lead to us people-pleasing to gain the affirmation we so desperately need. And people-pleasing, darling, it always leads to resentment and anger as our own needs go overlooked, even if we are getting the external affirmation we were seeking. So, let's talk about the new information we now have from Taylor's new album, Midnights. Starting with the most controversial, we have her music video from the debut single, Antihero. But why so controversial, you ask? Taylor shows her struggles with her eating disorder in a scene where she steps on some scales that then read fat. This caused some backlash online, with one Twitter user stating that Taylor was exhibiting fat phobia. This finally resulted in Taylor editing the scene in her music video. But frankly, as an eating disorder specialist, I don't think she should have, and this is why. For anyone who has ever battled with an eating disorder, whether it be based on restriction, binging or purging, and I've been there myself, we have all felt the huge pressure of simply feeling not good enough, defective, or a complete failure. As an eating disorder specialist, I truly hate the unhelpful battle I see it play out repeatedly by the diet culture movement and the health at every size movement. Why, you ask? Because actually, both are incredibly toxic. Diet culture confirms the defectiveness we feel about ourselves and states that if we simply become thinner and smaller, we will feel better and be better. On the other side of the coin, the health at every size movement also minimises our traumas by telling us that our binging is normal and that our weight is healthy even, and that we should just continue, as well as telling people that they are entirely well when they are in fact often becoming incredibly unwell because of their binge eating. Stepping away from this praise or demonization of fat is one of the biggest parts of cognitive healing we go through during our recovery journey. With a topic as big and as trauma-based as eating disorders, it can be very difficult to know where to draw the line creatively. But we should never minimize someone's recovery journey just because it doesn't align with our own. For me, Taylor wasn't being fat-phobic, simply trying to creatively show us the pressure that was put on her by society and the media in her celebrity career with her body. And in my eyes, to have a major celebrity talk openly and honestly about her eating disorder and her recovery can only be a good thing. It helps us remove shame from our own experiences. But with Antihero getting so much press, people aren't listening to some of her other songs where she also talks about her battle with her eating disorder and recovery journey. For me, it's not just in Antihero that I truly hear these struggles, but also in her song You're On Your Own, Kid, where Taylor sings, "From sprinkler splashes to fireplace ashes, I gave my blood, sweat and tears for this. I hosted parties and starved my body like I'd been saved by a perfect kiss." In this song, we truly see Taylor's loneliness, her desperate need for external love and affirmation, and her willingness to people-please and hurt her body to receive it. The reality is that we fall into eating disorders as a coping mode because it can feel like that perfect kiss, something coming to finally save us from all the traumas that nobody else has supported us with. So for me, this conversation isn't about how she artistically described her eating disorder in Antihero, but actually about exploring which traumas her eating disorder has been helping her cope with in the first place. Taylor isn't bad for fearing fatness in her eating disordered past. She was simply struggling with unprocessed trauma. And if this resonates with your journey, you aren't bad either, my darling. You're just carrying unprocessed trauma yourself. But I'm curious on your thoughts. Do you think Taylor was right or wrong to edit her video? What are your thoughts on the idea of Taylor being fat-phobic or simply struggling with her own traumas? It's been such a joy to have you here today. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. It does let other people on the internet know that I exist here. See you soon, baby.